Hello, I'm Sarah West, and I'm going to be talking about Saturn and Sagittarius. So when I first volunteered for this, I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about since this has been done quite a bit, so I didn't want to be redundant, but I actually pulled some resources about speaking to some of the archetypes that are in the combination. So let's get started. Desktop. Okay. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. Now, hopefully, how do I click through again? I'm sorry. Is that the remote control?
Just click the downward arrow on your computer or enter.
Oh, enter. Okay.
Or
it's not working.
The downward arrow should work. Click on the screen first.
Oh, here we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry. I messed up last time. That's why I had to ask that. Okay. So when reviewing this subject for Saturn and Sagittarius, a couple of things came to mind that I wanted to bring up. And I wanted to pull in a little bit more of the evolutionary astrology. So at NORWAC this last year, 2016 in May, David Green was there and did a presentation. It was on the Uranus and its nodal axis, but it had a lot of the themes around Sagittarius because of the south node of Uranus being in Sagittarius. And so I just listened to her talk again because I had purchased the audio and pulled out a couple of quotes that I just want to share here. And if anyone is interested, it's a really great lecture on the archetype in Uranus, but also Sagittarius from her lecture. So the first one is the Sagittarius archetype's highest teacher is plants, animals, and nature. And we all have a root in the natural times and natural law versus man-made law, where we didn't follow religious dogma or teachings for our truth and being. We were not indoctrinated. And further, she goes into the collective root of humanity is south node of Uranus in Sagittarius, which correlates to natural law knowledge and intelligence and freedom from the indoctrination that are in direct contradiction to natural law. And then also the north node Uranus is in Gemini, and that communication leads us back to natural law, that there are many expressions of natural law or paths to truth. And I wanted to pull those up because in my diving into the Sagittarius archetype, I thought this was relevant to share as a part of this conversation. So looking at Sagittarius, the ruler being Jupiter and Saturn in partnership with the combination, we have Jupiter, which is responsible for our self-development, our expansion, our intuition, our intuitive capabilities, abstract conceptualization. And this is noted in the materials that Jeffrey Green produced. I listened to his archetypal overview of the planets and pulled out some of these details from this DVD of his. And also Saturn is responsible for the self-development, maturation via discipline and focus. And both are necessary in self-actualization of the individual. And I wanted to bring that up. Interesting, I wanted to point out at this moment in time, December 1st, 2016, that we actually have the Saturn in Sagittarius at 18 degrees. And we also have that is in a trine with Uranus, which I think is interesting because it's kind of this almost like a bridge of opening. And we have Jupiter at 17 degrees Libra opposite that Uranus. So it's a very interesting moment with Mars at this moment in Aquarius. So there's a trine between the Mars and the Jupiter at 17 degrees. I wanted to read one little thing that is also kind of in this conversation because everybody knows this one, the Evolutionary Astrology Journal, of course. And there's an article by Gray Crawford, and I thought this was interesting to add into this mix about Jupiter. In his quote here, it says, Jupiter cannot change radically the structure set by Saturn It can only modify its outer appearance and the quality and the balance of the organic forces which operate within that structure. Uranus, on the contrary, deliberately and directly challenges Saturn's pattern, its exclusivism, its particularity, its rigidity. It pierces through Saturn and throws upon the inside walls of the conscious ego images of the more universal and freer world, which extends outside of these walls. Thus a twofold operation, the piercing through, and then the projection of images. The first phase may manifest in many ways, perhaps through slow stages of progressive thinning out of the Saturnian shells, so that these become finally like translucent window panes through which the consciousness centered within the shells may behold vistas of the beyond. In other cases, the Uranian action is sharp and explosive. It bores through the walls of the ego, holes, telescopes, microscopes, channels through which the flashes of intuition, the inspiration of genius may suddenly reveal themselves to the Saturn-bound consciousness. I just love that little piece from Gray. I wanted to add that in because if we're looking at Saturn and Sagittarius right now and the Jupiter relationship, we always have to pay attention where's Jupiter in the mix because it's the ruler of the Sag. And also that at this moment, Uranus has a trine kind of opening up that energy and the fire energy. And so I thought it was pretty important because if we look at what's going on in this moment, that's going to be quite important. Okay, moving on. And then looking at Saturn, just as the archetype, the Capricorn archetype, Saturn rules Capricorn, archetype, social behaviors, norms, laws, regulations. Jeffrey goes into a lot of detail on that on the DVD here that I watched again. What he also mentions, one of the three collective is nationality. And this is important because when I was thinking about this subject, I was like, well, what about right now? What's important right now for the Saturn and Sagittarius? As I was going on my walk, I thought, what else do I have to add to the conversation? And it kind of hit me in that moment that for me, as an American, it looks one way for Saturn and Sagittarius as a collective from the national perspective of being an American. But also, I was thinking, well, what does it mean for Saturn and Sagittarius for someone in Syria, a child in Syria, or a child in Japan, or a young adult in Japan, or anywhere else around the globe? We all have these different ways collectively that we are experiencing the Saturn and Sagittarius at this moment in time. And also nationality is a part of that. Race is a part of that as well. So each of that kind of brings in a filter of how we might experience it. Capricorn structures include the government and judges, corporations, living infrastructures for cities and states and laws. And but also Saturn is very important for us. It builds through hard work, discipline, focus, duty, responsibilities, and it is gives us the limits of time. That life is finite, so only so much time to get something done that we wish to achieve or become or experience. And it also is a part of the equation when we're looking at commitments and social contracts. So these are part of the Saturn archetype as we look at Saturn and Sagittarius. I thought of what's it look like when we have too much Jupiter but not enough Saturn? You know, because we always give Saturn the bad name oftentimes. But lack of boundaries and order. And I thought of, wow, that's a mess. Look at that desk. Not too much Jupiter, not enough Saturn to be organized and committed, disciplined to do creating the structure for organization. Also, too much Jupiter, inability to commit in relationships. That freedom for the Jupiter, not being able to settle into a relationship with commitment. Indulgence when moderation is healthier. Direct language when modified for the listener would be beneficial for communicating, for understanding and empathy. And also inability to focus attention. Too much Jupiter, maybe want to just go out and have some fun, not being able to stay with the task at hand. So we get a new understanding of the commitment and discipline and what it brings into the mix with Saturn and Sagittarius along these themes. Going back to some examples that Deva offered in her talk that I thought were important, and I noted in the later meetings today that I think we'll be discussing the daemon archetype. But she's noted in that talk that when we were reviewing Jane Goodall's chart, that another correlation for Sagittarius archetype is the daemon archetype. And it's a really excellent discussion around her chart and her being at home with the animals in the natural habitat, and her mutable grand cross in her chart, and advocacy for animals in their environment. Her 12th house moon in Sagittarius is like she was at home in that space. I've listed her times here, but I encourage you to actually maybe look into getting the lecture from Norwalk. I think you can order it from Astrology et al. For that discussion. And in that discussion, Dave also brings up the chart for Charles Darwin. And his Saturn is at 3 degrees Sagittarius, and her moon is at the same degree. So it's kind of interesting how they have these connections. Charles Darwin's chart, which I have at the very end of this slide deck, we can explore depending on how much time we have. But what's interesting about Charles's chart is he has the Saturn in Sagittarius. It's conjunct Neptune within 3 degrees at his descendant. And from the third house, he has Jupiter, Pluto, and Mercury in Pisces in the third house. And I thought it was interesting that David had quoted, like, it was like he, I don't want to see what I'm seeing. Like he'd been there before. It's an experience. It's like a journey he's been through before, and the trauma related to it. And it brought up a lot of unresolved trauma around the wounding around beliefs, because what he observed, he had to organize it, put it together, and then present it to the public. And that was going to be met with a lot of tension and conflict, and he knew that. Limitations of the mental constructs. Again, her subject was focusing on the Uranus North Node, South Node detail within the charts, and the South Node in Sagittarius. But again, I think it's still worthy to bring up from the Sagittarius archetype perspective, understanding the natural law as a part of this. I've listed here some other people that we could explore on our own if we wanted to dive into Saturn and Sagittarius, how it looks across the lifetime of like Martin Luther King Jr. All of these individuals here have Saturn and Sagittarius, and they have it in various houses and different experiences, but I think it's a good to list that just for research and further exploration. Additional information on Sagittarius archetype: it's the beliefs versus the inner knowledge, the trusting intuition, and disillusionment when doctrines are out of alignment with the natural laws and truth. Also, David noted we can be swept away in the disillusionment when we are not centered to our trust, to trust our inner knowledge considering beliefs. It helps us in our discernment. And then judgment correlates to Saturn and Sagittarius. And Sagittarius interpretations of truth are different and vary. Some additional insights from Jeffrey Green. That Saturn is a necessary function it's our highest view in time and space that correlates with the awareness of mortality, the finite time in our lives, in our becoming. Saturn is our maturation, our self-development across social systems we are born into. Jupiter is the function of expansion. It correlates to our intuition, our conceptualized view of reality. And he says, whatever question you may ask Jupiter of the universe, the cosmos, the answer comes into consciousness on its own volition, not on analysis. He says that's Mercury. And I thought that was pretty important to point out. He's like, that's why Jupiter is connected to beliefs and philosophy and cosmology, abstract principle, universal sense, like why life? What's my purpose? Jupiter is aligned to the universe and comes back as an oh or an aha or a realization for us. Other insights from Jeffrey. Nature nature, creation is projected through Uranus. Nature of life is equal or correlates to intelligence, inherent order, and Jupiter function touches into Uranus, as truth can only be realized and not invented. It is why philosophy changes and truth is revealed. And he went on to explain this by sharing the example of the time that he did this talk. It was in 1987 on this DVD. And he gave the Voyager 2 example, that when they launched Voyager 2 back in, I think, April or something of 1977, when it reached Uranus, it gave us new information about the behaviors of Uranus, and also more detail that we couldn't see through the telescope about how the rings were vertical, and that the North Pole was pointed away but actually warmer, and just the behaviors. And that is why it's important to see how the philosophy, the truth is revealed and then changes the philosophy about something. Saturn is also important. Jeffrey notes that it's important for the crystallization, the conditioning factors of social rules, and how that works together with the Jupiter function for expansion of the self through imagination, vision, creativity, pursuit of a goal. He noted that Saturn in the this was one of the very interesting, I did not know this before reviewing this. He said that Saturn in the physiological sense correlates to the aging enzymes, that I guess progress to our death. But the thyroid gland is co-ruled by both Saturn and Jupiter, and balance of growth and decay in the physical body structure. I thought that was an interesting little fact. And Saturn is part of the reflective process for an individual, and he discusses that quite a bit in his more than one of his lectures that I've listened to, that the process of reflection often includes depression, which is very important for the introspecting with critical view of the self for change in order to grow, is integral to the process of growth. So some additional findings I wanted to bring to your attention on the Saturn and Sagittarius. There was a recent article in the Mountain Astrologer, the January 2017 issue. Sean Nygaard wrote an article, Welcome to the Jungle, or Back to the Wild Frontier, Reflections on Saturn and Sagittarius. I really love that article. He talked about music that was produced the last time Saturn was in Sagittarius, and I thought it was pretty fun. You can read it online or actually get it. But there was a quote in there that he writes, a parallel dynamic in Greek myth tells that the wild horse was given to a man by Poseidon, while the horse's bridle and reins come from Athena, the goddess of wisdom and civilization. This relationship between the wild and the controlled, the uncultivated and the domesticated, the savage and the civilized, and ultimately between animal and human, animal nature and human nature, is inherent to the very nature of double-bodied mutable Sagittarius. Essentially, our lives require us to express our animal parts of ourselves, to be fulfilled with the human civilized aspects of ourselves. However, we do this literally or from our imaginations through our art, music, and dance. And also on Saturn in our maturity brings us strength to put in a new long-term plan in place. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Kelly Surtees. She's more of a modern, traditional, she does those practices more on her astrology approach. But I thought was interesting, she'd done an ebook with Saturn and Sagittarius. And she provided some basics. And I liked how that when Saturn is in Sagittarius, depending on what house it is in, it's kind of where you can put in the long-term plan, or where you can put in the time and commitment. 10th house is for your professional life. 2nd house is financial income. 7th house is making long-term commitment in relationships or business partnership. 5th house for the focus of working creatively for extended periods of time, or the 4th house, exploring your family heritage and your genetic makeup. And there's a lot on that topic. that you can even find in the EA glossary that was shared. Saturn is key for bringing structures into manifestation, from ideas and concepts to building strong foundations. Sagittarius, the mutable fire symbol and outward expression, and Saturn, Capricorn, is also outward yet cardinal and earth focused into the mundane everyday reality. Here's the times that we have Saturn in Sagittarius in transit. I also listed the last time, so if people wanted to explore for what was going on in the collective, that would be good to have. So we are kind of midway with Saturn at about 18 degrees today, and it will leave Sagittarius December 20th next year. So we've got one more year, about 20 days, of Saturn in Sagittarius. So let's go over to look at Charles Darwin. I just wanted to show you his Saturn in Sagittarius within degrees, just a few degrees of the ascendant, but with Neptune, which is interesting in his life work. So that's all squaring Mercury, Pluto, Jupiter. So anyway, anyone want to discuss their thoughts on Saturn and Sagittarius at this time? What your insights are, or your own personal experiences?
Thank you, Sarah. That was really good. I loved hearing all of it. I don't really have any questions, but especially just the overview of Sagittarius and Saturn and how they're coupled right now and what that means, and really helpful. Actually, it seems like we're going through this theme, this mutable theme today. So not a very mutable chart, so it's always helpful.
Yeah,
to hear it.
Yes. It kind of pushed me a little bit to go into more of the evolutionary astrology than just the kind of everyday how we look at Saturn.
Yeah.
So
I did listen to Diva's talk on that. It was really, really good.
yeah. So
thank you.
I think the most surprising thing that I learned in this was the co-rulership of Saturn and Jupiter with the thyroid. That just was fascinating to me. I don't know why. It's such a little detail.
You want to know something? Yesterday I was thinking, wow, I really want to know what rules the thyroid, and then you had it there today. So that was perfect. I didn't have to look it up. The other thing I was thinking, I forgot to mention, was the south node of Uranus, and that so many of us are being activated by that now, even though Saturn's past that degree. Really, still, it's definitely up. And the fact that Jupiter's going to oppose Uranus and square Saturn, I mean, pretty significant time.
Yeah, it's like a pivotal moment, isn't it? What captured me was the fact that we have Uranus at a trine right now with that energy. And I wonder if it's either that or Neptune that's keeping me up at night, because I'm not sleeping very well.
Oh my gosh, I felt that way the last week.
I was like, so much energy coming through, and I really want to sleep, but it's not happening. So
I have herbs. They knock me out. I have to have it now. I can't take it anymore.
I try exercise. But yeah, my sun is on 27 Sag, but my Venus is at 17 some change Sag. So I have all of that, and it's all trining. But
oh yeah, Saturn's sitting there. It's squaring my Venus right now. So I have the Virgo stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be in trine back and forth a lot, because Uranus will go direct and Saturn will go retrograde again.
Yeah.
So it's going to be dancing for a while.
Yes. So I can see that it's interesting in my own, because I'm Sagittarius sun, so my ego it's like I'm making commitments. I'm putting, more skin in the game in the astrology. So it's actually happening in my life, this this Saturn and Sag with, the Jupiter, and even how I participate in kind of the the political stuff. As Mars is my ascendant ruler, and how with that going into Aquarius, just kind of lit up. I mean, it was just like lots of energy in the last 6 months or 6 weeks or so, intensely. So
Yeah, me too, actually. I mean, I had the South Node in Sag, so my mouth started to fly open pretty easily. I was pretty ignited, and I was like, okay.
I'm right there with you. I've had to learn how to contain myself, bring in a little more Saturn.
Yeah.
on my.
I mean, I've done that. I've done that in the past, but I think with this, because I've tended to be pretty quiet about stuff, but I was like, no more. I gotta stop for what I'm feeling. So it's a balance. It is a balance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so
Definitely great section. Yes, Linda.
We started our EA Zoom meetings group with Saturn in Sagittarius.
Oh yeah.
I was born with Saturn in Sag in my second house. Yes, in the second house. And also, I just want to tell everybody that in the next few weeks, we will be doing a meeting called the Hot 20 Degree Pattern.
I know, I can't wait. I saw that.
On the 25th of December, Venus, Uranus, Jupiter, and Saturn will all be at 20 degrees, creating a half a Star of David pattern. So
that is cool.
The flow of all the energies.
That's on the 25th, right?
Yeah, on Christmas Day. And unexpected change, but it will be easy change, easy to be integrated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's be fun. You're doing that one at the next EA Zoom meeting?
Either on the 8th or the 15th, just depending on, the shuffling around that I have to do to get everyone in.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll be looking at Olive's chart for that one, and it should be really exciting.
Great. I can't wait. I have one more question. What was the first EA meeting? I'm curious. Was that August?
The one that we had today?
No, the very first one you said was Saturn Sag. Yeah, because you started this like in August or something, right?
We started the group, the Facebook group, with Saturn in Sag. I think it was like about 5 degrees or something like that.
Yeah, I think we were like in June or something. We started it, I think.
Oh, the start of the group. I see. Okay.
Started on Skype, and that wasn't working very well. We had some real disasters there because it couldn't cope with so many people. So then we switched over to Zoom, and I think it was in August last year. So I'm not really sure, but anyway, yeah.
Hi, Linda. I think we started like June 17th, around 17th, because I take a note, and I remember that's like our first Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Was it this year or this for the Zoom meetings? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Fun. I love it.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. I don't have anything else. I just wanted to share,
We've still got 10 minutes, so we may as well continue talking. I'm just trying to get the panel of everybody up on the screen. Perhaps you could stop sharing your screen and then,
Stop share. There you go.
Okay, great. It's wonderful to see everybody and a few new people. It's fantastic. So, Sarah, what would you like to continue talking about in this meeting?
We could, what they think as Saturn progresses through the rest of because as it moves through the last degrees of Saturn, Sag, what do we think is opening or we're learning at this time as a collective? Maybe that would be a good starting point. I think it's already on the world stage. We're seeing it with the refugees. We're seeing it in the law. We're seeing it in so many different pieces of our collective. So,
well, for me personally, and the individuals do make up the collective. So for me personally, I'm having a focus more on the natural world and animals and the way they are treated. And, as Saturn moves towards the galactic center, then there will be a focus on the natural world and daemon souls. So today in our Zoom meetings, we will have Tashi talking about daemon souls. So fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great. I can't wait to listen to that one because my daughter is her moon is in Sag, and her Pluto is in Sag, and her Pluto squares her nodal axis, North Node, Pisces, South Node, Virgo. But she has 5 planets in Scorpio, so she's very tuned into the animals and how we rescue them and take care of them. So I'm very interested to hear what Tashi has to say later today.
I noticed Simon had Neptune on the galactic center, and I wanted to ask him about that. We didn't have enough time. I thought that was interesting. But my Venus is actually conjunct the galactic center. It's in Capricorn, but it's within a conjunction. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My sun's there. 26 degrees, something, 46 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. We could do a talk on
the galactic center.
Sorry, or more and Damien Soul stuff, because I definitely have it really strong, and it's an interesting dynamic. But Saturn's going to come square. It's going to square Pisces, Chiron and Pisces. I mean, and that's going to bring up a lot of stuff too about natural law and animals and nature and in the environment.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi there. Oh, can you guys hear me? It's Janine.
Hi, Janine.
Hi. You know, the thing about the Saturn and Sagittarius, where you were saying where we might notice it's affecting the collective, I watched that Daily Show clip this morning where they had one of the conservative commentators on with Trevor Noah, and he was really calling her out on her belief systems. And I've noticed this a lot, particularly in the States, of people really calling each other out on what their beliefs are. Like, where did you get that belief? What are you saying? What are you actually talking about? And people having to take responsibility for what they're saying and what they believe.
Was that today? I think I saw that, but I didn't click on it today.
This morning I saw it, yeah.
Wow.
But it's very interesting. It seems to be all over the media right now, where people, you know, with your elections just happening and all the pundits, people just sort of saying stuff and someone else saying, well, that's not true.
Right.
Or if you think it's true, where on earth did you get that idea from? So that seems to me like a Saturn and Sag, you know, kind of energy, taking responsibility for what we think.
Well, I think it also reflects the shadow of Sag, because that's a big thing that's going on in the U.S. here. I mean, whose truth is actually true?
Right.
You know, people are like, well, and they're not listening to each other, and they're screaming at each other, and my way is right, and you're an idiot, and, you know, just very saggy, right? And with it, I don't know, the Saturn seems to be showing up as either too much
judgment.
Yeah, too much judgment, too much structure, too much of the domination of natural law, or it's, no boundaries whatsoever. It seems like Saturn's like gone out the window, like someone like put a bunch of dynamite and blew it up. I guess that's Uranus there.
That's Uranus. Yeah.
But it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. So staying to the real truth, you know, and after listening to Simon, I mean, it's so funny because, like, I have that South Node in Sag right on the South Node of Uranus, squaring Uranus, natal Uranus. And I don't know. And I have Jupiter in the 12th house. And when you really settle in and you listen deeply to all of the cosmos and everything, it's like you have this knowing, right? There's this knowing. But is my way the right way? I mean, every soul is where they're at, right? And there's so many different souls on the planet right now, or different stages. They're all clashing together.
Everyone's evolving at their own place. But I think you can go backwards, though. Isn't that like a slippery slope backwards if you don't open at some point? I don't know.
I totally agree. I mean, that's what
I kind of thought about that when I sat with Stephen Forrest, and he's like, yeah, I really think that people can get it wrong and you're back around again. And,
yes,
you know,
definitely we can go backwards, but Pluto is an evolutionary force that is pushing us forward, and sometimes we need a cataclysm to wake us up. And
kind of feels like where we're at right now.
And also, I have two favorite sayings from Evolutionary Astrology. Your beliefs create your reality, and people will believe just about anything.
That's great.
Yeah,
going on.
7 billion people on the planet, everyone believing their own particular belief, and also consensus expression of Jupiter is dogma, and trying to convince and convert others to their own beliefs. And while Saturn is patriarchal stuckness, because for security reasons, they feel secure in having the same beliefs, and in everybody, in their little group having the same beliefs. So they're all believing the same things, voting for the same political parties, etc.
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to stall that passage to the next level into Uranus land.
It got suppressed this time around. We saw it.
When the truth comes out, then Saturn has the ability to ground that into reality, which is the positive side. So we're wanting the truth, to come out more.
Right.
I wonder when that exact opposition between Jupiter Uranus is going to be and squaring Saturn. That's going to be pretty radical, I think.
Wendy, that's on the 25th of December, and it won't be squaring.
At the same time as all those 20 degrees?
Yeah. Saturn will be squaring, Saturn will be squaring Chiron, but Saturn will be trining Uranus, yes. That's
and
right.
Sextile Jupiter.
There'll be two sextiles from Venus, and there'll be two trines, and it'll be anyway. You'll see the chart.
I can't wait to see that. That's gonna.
Yeah, we were going to do it today, but we just had too many volunteers, which was fantastic. But and also Ari Moshe came forth at the last moment, and he'll be doing a meeting today. So that was just too good to miss out on. So shuffle everybody around again.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
this was good sharing. Good sharing. I think we're down to the last minute here. 35 seconds.
Yeah, we got about a minute.
Okay, see you on the next call, everybody.
So what is truth?
Yeah.
Sarah, was that your desk?
What was my desk?
Was that your desk, the too much Jupiter, not enough Saturn?
Yeah. Well, that's not my desk. I just thought, well, it can be sometimes.
That's what mine looks like.
I have moments, yeah.
Oh, and one more other really good saying is we don't need religion to teach us what is right and wrong. We already know within ourselves what is right or wrong. We don't need a religion telling us what to do. So that's it.
Oh, come to America and say that.
Brilliant.
To just watch and observe might be a wise path.
Yes.
Have to get some Saturn protection for.
Well,
okay,
thank
guys, let's wind it down. Thank you so much, Sarah. What a fantastic meeting. Fantastic. Thank you.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sarah, that was excellent.